ArtSpark is an organization that I started 4 years ago. We just had our 4th birthday party. And the mission of ArtSpark is to work with individual creative people, artists, artisans, designers, as well as communities to increase sustainability of arts and culture in communities. A very small mission, but it's something. I'm actually a lifelong artist, and this is something that I've been very involved with for a very long time. So I began this company in Albuquerque, but we work around New Mexico and also do a little bit of work in California because our technical partner, kind of our training and tech partners in San Francisco. So what I'm going to share with you tonight is about the Arts Listening Project, which is really our flagship program. We started this last year, and it's called the Arts LP, Arts Listening Project. And again, we launched it last year to discover how careers and longevity of different kinds of creatives, including artists, artisans, and designers, are best supported in different communities. And what we do is we facilitate arts ecosystem dialogues at the community level, but community is self-defined, so sometimes there have been neighborhoods that have contacted ArtSpark and said, we really want to build an arts ecosystem for our particular neighborhood, for a city council district, for a certain part of the city. So we're working in different communities throughout the United States. In the Southwest, we're working in Silver City, Albuquerque, doing a little bit of work in California, and hoping to have at least 2 more communities join us in 2014. So we really focus on thriving arts ecosystems, and we work with different groups of people to develop what that means to them, and looking at their resources that they have in their communities, as well as some of the things that are missing and ideas that they have for how to make things better. So we do have some basic practices and principles, thinking about ecosystems. Think about no waste, think about recycling, best use of resources. Definitely permeable. We think about silos of different parts of communities. We have arts and culture, and then we have government, and we have education. So the idea with the Arts Listening Project is actually to have these different silos or special interest groups work together, and also self-sustaining mechanisms so that beyond the initial dialogue, that it is woven into the community fabric and can continue. So we had the first Arts Listening Project pilot, which was in Albuquerque in July. We have lots of data from that, and then we did our very first full-blown Arts Listening Project in November on the 15th in Silver City. And we hope to include at least 2 more communities in 2014. And Rio Rancho, perhaps, that's why I'm here to talk to you. And basically, the arts ecosystem idea comes from how we think about ecosystems in the natural world. And I know the type is really small here, but we all know what this means. It means that we have water and earth and all the different systems of our natural world that feed each other and are in interdependent relationship. And that's really what the Arts Listening Project is trying to create in a community with arts and culture. So this is one representation. And we're finding that actually there are other representations of ecosystems, for example, at the community level. And this is something that I actually found on the web. This was connected with the University of Massachusetts at Amherst, and thinking about communities as ecosystems. So we have community institutions, we have individuals, we have families, we have neighborhoods, we have natural environments, we have economic institutions, and we also have the built environment, architecture, buildings. And if we think about theaters and other parts of the arts and culture districts, then we can also think of built environments that way. And that it all really, really leads to increased social capital. This is another representation of an economic ecosystem, and this is where I really think that ArtSpark fits in, and the Arts Listening Project. So I would put us down here in the local culture part of the community. So we're looking at arts entertainment, we're looking at collaboration, we're looking at philanthropy and other things, but we are really connecting to economic development, community involvement at a lot of different levels, and also the investment in the community also connected to economic development. So this is probably the best representation, or the thing that comes closest to what ArtSpark and the Arts LP is doing. So just a little bit of a peek. This is the Arts Listening Project model. And as an artist, as someone who's been involved with arts planning and infrastructure building for a couple, actually 3 decades at this point in time, I find that over and over again, it's kind of the same group of us getting together and rehashing. So it's the arts folks, it's the culture folks, and we get together every number of years and we say, okay, we need to revisit this. Oftentimes it is government that says it's time to do a new arts and culture plan. And I am really intrigued, and have been for a while, in inviting other people from the community and different sectors from the community into the arts planning process. So the Arts LP model, in addition to including like an arts and culture organization, we also have room for an artist or an artisan or a designer. We also include agriculture, business, community members, people who are in the community who are connected to the arts or not. Community services, that could be things like housing, economic development. Academic development and tourism is next. And education, and by education, I really try to include people from education who are not arts educators, but who come from education in a broader sense to participate in these dialogues. Environmental organizations. I also really like to have a philanthropist, a patron, or a funder, like in Silver City, we had PNM come and participate. That was really amazing. We also include a representative from government, a representative from media, and that can be traditional media. It also can be online media. Very important, I think, more and more to include science and technology, partly because I think that we are seeing more and more connection between arts and science. Very important. And also social nonprofits. So we have had, for example, we had a health council in Silver City participate. So basically the model is that we have one representative from each of these 14 stakeholder groups. And we do allow doubles on occasion, especially with community members. It's really nice to have 2 or 3 community representatives participate with us. So if you have any questions as I go through this, please don't hesitate to interrupt me. So this is the basic model that we use. And this is what the Albuquerque Arts LP, this is the pilot that we did this summer. And you can see that we didn't get full representation. We were missing some folks. And we did have 2 representatives from the Orange sector, which is community members and advocates.
Are you working with Innovate Albuquerque?
Mm-hmm. You are. Mm-hmm. We have some nice beginning conversations with them.
You're familiar with their rainforest approach? What they're doing? It's a lot like your ecosystem.
Oh, interesting.
Approach. Very similar. That's the whole basis of how they're putting those groups together.
It's exciting to me that this is happening, bubbling up in lots of places. People are talking about arts and cultural ecosystems all over the world, actually.
Well, Innovate needs to know that.
Okay, so thank you. And then this is Silver City. This was extremely exciting. We had all 14 stakeholder groups represented during the dialogue. And then we had 2 community members as well. The thing that was really wonderful about the Silver City group was that we partnered with their arts council, their members regional arts council, and they set it up for us. It's very hard for someone from Albuquerque who's heading a project to connect with the right people in a community and say, why don't you come and why don't you come? I don't know. I know Albuquerque very, very well. I've lived there since 1991 and I'm a native New Mexican, so it's very easy for me to pull together Albuquerque, but Silver City not. So I found the right community partner, and she did an absolutely amazing job in pulling everyone together for this day.
What was her time?
Pardon me?
What was her time?
She actually, her name is Faye McCalmont, and she is the head of the Members Regional Arts Council. So I think she's a paid employee. And someone who knows the community very, very well. We had a beautiful meeting in an astounding art gallery in Silver City, and the turnout was 100%, and it went really, really well. But Faye worked very, very hard. It's always challenging to get 14 people to show up for pretty much a day-long meeting. Although one of the things that we do is we bring lunch in, and we go from 9 until 3, preferably on a Friday. So everyone has a couple of hours in the afternoon to finish up their week and go home. So that's one thing that we've realized that works really well. Just a little bit, just going through the Arts Listening Project steps. Again, like I described in working with Faye in Silver City, we do collaborate with the community partner to coordinate the Arts LP community dialogue. And again, it can be an arts commission, it can be a local arts and culture organization. We also have been contacted by local government officials to do this. And then we send out invitations to participate with a really nice, we do a really nice job with the invitations and with some background about the Arts Listening Project and what our expectations and our goals are for the day. Then, like I said, we have a meeting that is most of a day, but we take a nice break, and we end by 3 p.m. And then basically the whole day is a dialogue, and it's a very participatory, facilitated process that is very active. So it's not a group of people sitting around in a circle and talking about what the arts in their community should look like or does look like. We actually do very active conversation and dialogue exercises. So we have conversations about what is the arts ecosystem in the community? What does it look like? Is it working? Is it not working? Then we also talk about the things that are working or not working. Are there ways that they actually connect with each other? Because, for example, in Silver City, they talked about some of the things that were not working with the schools, and then literally on the other side, what's working? The schools. Well, what's that connection? To find out that the community felt like the private schools and the charter schools, it was working really, really well. The public schools, not so well. So when they were thinking about their priorities and brainstorming about actions, they knew where to go. They decided, we really want education to be part of this, and we have a feeling that it's not going to work particularly well with public schools, so we're going to work with private schools, Montessori schools, and charter schools. And then we go through a brainstorming process where we talk about action. And then at the end of the day, we actually take a good 45 minutes to get some things done. Because we have amassed this group of people who oftentimes know each other in a community, but don't necessarily have the opportunity to work together. And getting them back together can be a challenge. So we've learned, let's give them 45 minutes. There's action steps like crazy. It's like all over the room. There's stuff all over the walls, and there's tables with all different kinds of action steps. And so we determine what are some things that we can actually get done today. And that's been very, very helpful. Then there is support from ArtSpark afterwards, depending on what people need and what the funding is. It's a chunk of funding to go into a community and do all of this. Follow-up to come in and facilitate other meetings is more resources, but there's other ways to really save resources. So we can do things like just consultations over the phone. We've done Google Hangouts or Skype with groups of people. We've done conference calls. We've done group emails to talk about next steps. And I really believe, and it's been my experience so far, that the follow-up is essential. We go through this amazing process, and I imagine that many of you have gone through really uplifting and exciting planning processes, at least.
Every meeting.
That's great. But then what's next?
Yeah.
What's next? So I connect with, usually it's a core group of people, like in Silver City, there's 4 people. And they've made a commitment that they're going to keep it going. So, for example, we're talking next week, and we're thinking about what the next steps are. Also, for 2014 and 2015, we're going to be building an online platform, so an online website for the different communities to connect with each other. Because I found that when I went to Silver City, one of their first questions to me was, what did Albuquerque come up with? And when I've connected back with the Albuquerque group, because they were reforming themselves to be a bigger presence, they said, oh, tell us what Silver City did. And there's some overlap, but there's some differences, and I think that there's really some great potential in connecting communities with each other. They can be support to one another, they can brainstorm with each other, they can ask each other questions, like if you are working with, if one of your priorities is to move more art into the schools, how are you doing that? How's it going? What have you learned? And can you help us? Even just give us some ideas. So that's one thing that we're doing this year. And then we're also doing ongoing evaluation. I'm a planner and an evaluator by training, and I love collecting data, but I also like collecting data that has some meaning. So we're looking at changes in practice, changes in networks and partnerships, changes in resources, and also changes in connections across communities. Hopefully that all these things increase and get stronger. So that's pretty much the Arts LP in a nutshell. I know I didn't, Paula said, it's not a really, don't have it be a really, really long presentation. I'm really open to questions, your ideas, what you're thinking. I did send Paula the actual presentation on PowerPoint, and there also is a link. I put it on SlideShare, so you can all access it online. And then download it and make copies if you wish. But in the interest of ecosystems and trees, I didn't want to make copies, and I didn't know how many people would do it.
Is that really SHA.RE?
It's, yeah, SLIDESHA.RE /1C capital AM. I think that's probably an I, capital I, or a lowercase l, I don't know, capital Y, capital M. But I also sent this to Paula, and so she can send you it directly, the whole thing, and then you just press the link.
That's excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
What do we need to do to do this?
You know, I think I've got like a jillion questions.
Absolutely.
That's one of them. You know, do we all have questions? We all do? You want to start at one?
Cool.
How much does it cost?
That was my first one.
I'm really glad you asked that question because I'm prepared for that. It's about $9,000 to do the Arts LP process with you, and that includes some follow-up. If there's meetings that happen afterwards, if, for example, you decide we did this once and we actually really want you to come back and sit with us as a smaller group and take us to the next level, then we renegotiate. But the $9,000 includes the follow-up phone calls, the, you know, if we want to do something on Skype.
Is this over a period of time?
Generally, I'm just saying it's really open. I know these things take a while. So, like Silver City asked me for how long, and I said, you know, if it gets to be that it's a whole lot of work, then we'll talk about it. But I have a feeling that it's going to be probably another year, would be my guess.
And how much interaction between the various cities is involved? In other words, if we signed up, what kind of access to whatever Albuquerque or certain cities come up with or future?
Well, one of the
cities
things,
have as far
right,
as ideas or something.
until we have the website platform up, and it's hard for me, even though I know technology and love technology, to really know how long that's going to be. And I thought it was going to be done this year, and my strategic planning partners, we met actually this past week, and they said, say 2014/2015. So until there's a platform, there's lots of ways that they can connect. We can put together kind of a membership Google group, for example. We can even facilitate conversations either online or on the phone between communities. We can facilitate emails going back and forth.
Are you encouraging interaction?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But also you need to know that I always ask permission. So when I was going down to Silver City, I knew they were going to ask for Albuquerque's data. And I didn't have the okay by the time I got down there. Like 4 people had gotten back to me. And I felt like I really needed, I needed a 2/3 majority of people saying yes. I knew there were going to be a few people that were not going to answer. And so when I went down there and they said, we want Albuquerque's data, I said, I'm working on it. I just need to get Albuquerque's okay. They gave me the okay. The data went. And then the Albuquerque people said, we want Silver City's data. So when Albuquerque's data went out, I said, can you reciprocate? And they said, absolutely. I don't think there's been communication yet. And that's because the Albuquerque group was a pilot group. So they're kind of reconfiguring themselves at this point in time.
Do you know how Silver City or Albuquerque, how they come up with the money, how they pay for it? Was it government money?
It was. It was
City?
Albuquerque, because it was a pilot. Actually, we were funded by the McCune Foundation.
By what?
The McCune Foundation in Santa Fe. So they gave us some funding to do the pilot. And then in Silver City, it was a combination of like 4 different sources. Some of it came from Silver City. Some of it came from the Arts Commission. Some of it came from the McCune Foundation. And some of it came from donors.
So if we were to solicit from private entities for donations, do you have any supporting things that we can take with us in for that process?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because we had to do private fundraising for silver, or they did it. They went to people in Silver City and asked for resources. So we pulled together basically background materials about it, and then a very transparent budget about what all the resources were, what they were being used for.
$7,000, it's roughly for a year's worth of effort on your part. Is there do you document the results after the year?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because one of the things that's the most exciting to me about the Arts Listening Project is that we actually give you the data right away. As we do the process, we actually have a person who's kind of the person behind the curtain, who is taking photographs of the process and downloading it into graphics. So you have an idea of some of the changes that happened in the room that day. And then we have a commitment to you to get all the data to you, which is very visual, in 3 weeks' time. So you have data to work with immediately. So did that answer your question?
Oftentimes the document actually speaks to what you paid. It's like, this is what we paid for. And I realized we paid for, the interaction and the orchestration. But it boils down to that document.
Right.
And it speaks volumes to how government functions.
Right.
That document is what we're going to rely on.
Right.
Because not everybody's going to participate, but the decision makers will be looking at that document saying, this is going to be the basis of further decision making on our part.
Right.
It would be an important thing for us.
Yeah, I understand that, and the document that we give you is the process and the outcomes. So all the data that we collect during that day comes back to you, which outlines the process that we go through, and then all the information that we collect for the day, which is basically the foundation, it's the community dialogue, it's what happened that day, is all there for you. And it's really well done, it's very well presented. And I can check, I can show you basically what Albuquerque did or what Silver did.
So in your experience, in either of the cities, whether it's Silver City or Albuquerque, what kind of equity results have you seen? And you know what I'm saying when I say, like, you're actually
Return on investment.
well, what you're doing is you're creating cultural equity. I mean, you're creating some value that didn't exist before. And I'd like to know, can you give me a couple examples of what existed after that didn't exist before?
Right. So what I do is usually within a month's time, after the data goes back to everyone, I actually survey people and I ask them, what are the changes that you've seen so far? And as I outlined here, so we ask them primarily, what are their changes in practice? How are they doing things differently? How are they connecting? For example, there are some people who have never connected with the faith community. And so now the faith community is involved. And we're finding, interestingly enough, in both communities, that churches are a really valuable partner. They have congregations, they have beautiful spaces. They oftentimes have arts programs that no one outside of the church knows about. So that means that there's been a change in practice, in connection with a different entity or a different sector, and then there's more resources that come out of that relationship. So there can be other resources that are leveraged, like space, gallery space. I know that in Albuquerque we had a hospice chaplain who was our faith community representative, and a couple people came up to her afterwards and asked her, what do you think about doing exhibits of visual art in the hospices? Really, I mean, nourishing and wonderful things, and as far as I know, it's taken off. So that's the kind of impacts that we're.
I'd like to share something with you. It's a very small. If you come up here,
Sure.
I'll give you this. I'll tell you guys what I'm showing her. This is if you look at the red, what this is this is the number of employees in the city that are employed in cultural affairs departments in the cities.
Right.
And you can see Albuquerque, Las Cruces, and Rio Rancho in the red. And you can see Rio Rancho has 1.
Oh, yeah.
And Albuquerque has 339. This doesn't include the libraries or the senior centers or the parks and rec.
But it does include the maintenance people in their cultural program.
Yeah, well, in the maintenance people in their cultural program. But if you look at Albuquerque and Las Cruces, they're kind of neck and neck as a percentage of their population.
Yeah.
They're kind of even, based on population. And we have an uphill battle here. What you're talking about, we need, when I was reinforcing that, needing that document, in order for us to move that number, we need to show that, we need to do it, that there's interest in it, that, that we have a documented fact that, this is something we lack in Rio Rancho. We kind of know it, but, what you do would actually reinforce that because it's a study. Is everyone here familiar with the foundation that you mentioned earlier?
The McCune Charitable
Yeah,
Foundation?
I'm not familiar with that.
You see them on PBS all the time.
They are a family foundation that's located in Santa Fe, and they fund all different kinds of things in the state of New Mexico. And they're probably our only, I wouldn't say our only, but our most accessible source of funding for arts and culture.
That may be something we want to look at.
Absolutely.
As a small starting out group. In your documented results, would you look at some of these metrics like I'm showing you here? do you have a little package of those that you actually research? I mean, it's not that hard to put together, just basic metric data.
For the most part, the data that I've collected has really been the impacts and the outcomes associated with the actual community dialogue. And so I think because I've been working with communities that have more resources, and this is kind of shocking, honestly.
No,
We know.
It's very telling that we have I like to call it a rooftop mentality here. We're culturally, well, there's no fabric. There's no fabric. There's little bits here and there. Our schools are really kind of excel in the arts, actually.
Yes,
Very well.
they do.
Yeah, they do very well.
The schools are just way out in front.
Well, that's something that could be very exciting to leverage,
Well,
to work with.
it actually ties back into this residential community you're in.
But I think of all the artists that are in Rio Rancho. There are a lot of practicing artists.
Yes, there
and
are.
we do have spaces where arts and culture takes place.
Somewhat.
A little bit.
No,
Little bit,
not really.
No.
but not really.
We're working into it.
We're working on it.
Daniel, who's that one person? Is that me?
What's that?
Who's
That's
that
you.
one person?
The one
Is that me?
person.
The
That's you.
one, the Convention and Business Bureau,
Oh.
CVB.
Oh, okay.
CVB is kind of the only,
You feel left out?
that's our only, and I think there's only one and maybe a helper there.
There's 4 people there.
Is there four? Well, gee. we
I don't
have
know if one
four.
of them's
Well,
temporary
there's
or whatever,
A
but
40% increase.
Who else?
It's still quite low. I mean, we're not even,
Who else do you
they're
anticipate?
about events and heads and beds.
Who else do you anticipate approaching with?
other cities.
To do the Arts Listening Project, I'm very, very interested in approaching an American Indian community here in the state of New Mexico because, one, as a program planner and evaluator, I've worked with these communities for about 22 years, and I feel like I've witnessed some amazing advantages of being a 7th generation silversmith or weaver, for example, and I actually think we have things to learn from these communities about how they support their artisans especially. So I'm working with the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center and also approaching individual communities, especially casinos, including in Sandoval County.
Is ArtSpark a non-profit?
ArtSpark actually is not a nonprofit because we have a training and technical assistance part of what we do. But because of our work more in the social sector and social profit, what I would call social profit, when we received some initial funding from the McCune Foundation in 2010, they connected us with the Center for Southwest Culture in Albuquerque, which is downtown, and so we're a project of theirs. So we've been able to fundraise from foundations and also individuals and small businesses. So the money goes toward.
How is Innovate? Is Innovate just a stakeholder?
At this point in time, they're not involved because we did this right when they were kind of getting started. So as the Albuquerque group reconvenes and reconfigures itself with this small group of about 4 individuals, they're going to be doing the reaching out. But I totally agree that that should be kind of the Albuquerque University partner.
Is everyone here familiar with what Innovate Albuquerque is doing? Innovate is it's part of UNM. Their economic development at UNM is the financial agent for Innovate Albuquerque. And what they did was they took basically a block where the old church is downtown on Central, and they're master planning it into an innovation core or an innovation cluster to move technology and business from research to the street. And by building those creative clusters and the networking that will be involved, they're hoping that it will grow into a kind of a central corridor, thread of innovation And what you do would actually complement what they're trying to do. And, you know, they're starting, they're going to start their master plan process and start putting up buildings and start moving businesses and researchers into that innovation cluster. It's really exciting.
It is really, really exciting, and I just have always had some concern, frankly, that maybe they were not going to include arts and culture in the process that they're involved with, because they're very tech-oriented and connected with the labs and UNM. But I think that Edo, East Downtown, and downtown is really going to say we need to make sure that we include arts and culture.
Oh,
And the startup community and entrepreneurs.
It's on there. It's
Okay,
on there,
good.
yes.
I'm glad to hear that,
You
because
just need
initially
to-
I didn't
You just
see
need
it.
to go in and sit down with them and do
Okay.
this,
Yeah,
and I can help you.
that would be
there.
lovely. That would be lovely. I can say that some of the strongest partners with us so far, and the people who have participated, are in jobs that have one foot in economic development. So the Arts Commission, not the Commission, the Members Regional Arts Council, they're very connected with what's going on with Main Street, which is Silver City's a Main Street community, and very connected to all the small businesses that are happening there, because there are entrepreneurs and startups that are locating to that part of New Mexico because the quality of life is so high and the cost of living is quite low. And Silver City's a wonderful community. It's got a lot of artistic, creative people, the best restaurants that I've ever seen there. And I also think that they're attracting really interesting people. It's just that it's isolated. Rio Rancho.
Which is a really good point. It's isolated and they're doing it. And their income is not high. So,
But they've suffered.
but
They did really
they've
well, and
invested
then-
in their arts community.
Yes.
Because I've been following their process too, and the payoff is coming in.
Yeah. And they don't give up. These people do not give up. They just keep on. There's buildings that are closing and schools that are not doing so well, and what they do is it's just an interesting group of people that make the decision that they're going to use available resources in the best way possible. And that's a lot of it, frankly.
Yeah.
Is leveraging existing resources. Because
Yeah.
it's not an easy time to garner new resources for the arts.
Yeah, we're tasked with creating something from nothing.
Yeah.
And actually, we've had some success, and we'll continue to.
Well, this might be a way, and I'm very, it may be that you want to start off a little bit more, if you don't want to do the full thing, start off and do something that's a little bit scaled back. Maybe that works better for you. Because, for example, I'm being approached by the Bareilles neighborhood in Albuquerque to just do it for their neighborhood. With the railroad yards that are there and everything, to just think about how can we all work together and not surrender our neighborhood to gentrification, basically.
Well, maybe we'll have some more discussion with you about tailoring something for our needs.
Yeah.
And we can show you, what we've got for resources. We've got them. They're out there. We've got, we've got a great partner in Southern Sandoval, Royal Flood Control. They have a great commitment to art, and they're a wonderful partner with the city on a lot of things. So I know that they'd be there for us. We can count on them. If not, right away, maybe over the course of a couple of years. They're there for us. They made that point.
Well, and I would encourage you to go to ArtSpark's website and to look at the Arts Listening Project page, because there's more information there. There's a few more objectives, kind of what our goals and principles are. I just didn't want to take up too much time with too many details.